Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to cover a little bit of unit testing. Yesterday, in case you missed it, we did some basic playwright testing with Cursor, showing how quickly you can get some basic smoke and sanity tests in place. Highlights from that was fixing test IDs and adding test IDs, doing page object models, going very fast. Today we're going to talk about unit tests. Tomorrow we'll start to get probably into contract tests as well as some DB tests. In the future, I'll do stuff like database seeding, but genuinely, like anything to do with Cursor and test automation, please drop it in the comments below and I will cover it. What I'm going to quickly show you is adding unit tests. So if you weren't here, what we're working through is a very basic, just like app. The number one thing I'm probably going to get penalized for is this is not a production level app. I am working on trying to figure out which of the apps I'm allowed to work on and kind of show. I might just pull an open source one. That being said, everything that we're doing on larger apps in this works. So it's more about the spirit of it and so forth. We are going to do unit tests, tickets. So just to quickly touch base, you have the ability to create support tickets in this little app. You can do different types, you can do different categories, stuff like that. Description, you can create the ticket. Let's do it. So let's say, write me unit tests with Vite test. Let's see what it does. Let's actually give it one more prompt. Feel free to use convex testing. Google that first. So convex is the backend. This just goes back to the idea of we just want to give it context. I also want to show its ability to Google stuff and teach itself stuff based on what it's told. And it's going to Google it. Now it should find that convex does offer a library called convex test, which it did find. Now it's reading the schema. Cool. It's already identified also that I didn't have the dependency. So let's add the dependency. Now it's adding a config file, which it needs to do. It's adding a test file. I need to find ways of filling this time while we wait. So basically, our general testing strategy is 5 layers of tests plus the end-to-end. So you have your unit tests, you have contract tests between your backend and the database. You have some integration tests on the front end. You have just component tests, and then you have contract tests between the front end and the back end. And then beyond that, you just have end-to-end tests. So like over the next couple weeks, I'm just going to basically show you as I'm working on this stuff, how we add that. I also wanted to just show this stuff without readmes, but at this point, what we do is we just have like large readmes saved in Notion that basically have extensive instructions about the libraries we want to use, how we want to do it, like how we want to handle data and stuff like that. We just drop the README in. I'll try to make a video in the future just going through some of those READMEs. But for now, we're just talking about unit tests. It's working. And I wrote them. Cool. Okay, a couple things to understand about unit tests when it comes to AI and its relationship. One is it writes a lot of really great tests, but it also tends to assume as it's written is intended. So the one area is I do feel like unit tests tend to miss bugs at times. You absolutely have to go through these and review them. You can, though, at times do stuff like take a look at the tests you wrote compared to the intent of what you feel the feature is and tell me if you believe any tests are hiding bugs because they don't map to the proper intent. I would not normally do this at this point, but I am just going to show you to see what it does. Let's run through some of the tests as it's going. All right, it should return all the tickets when no filters applied. Let's look. Yeah, some of these basically look pretty good. Escalate to QA. So let's see what it does when it comes to looking at it. Now I can see, all right, interesting. So I can see there's several issues with my test that are potentially hiding bugs after analyzing. Now, is this 100% correct? Probably not. But once again, is this just overall going to be much faster than previously it would have been able to be done? Definitely. That's interesting. Cool. So let's just say update the tests with that in mind. Now, like once again, normally what I would do probably once it wrote all these tests is go through them, offer my own thoughts first. For the sake of this video, I'm just basically trying to show how well it can do some of this stuff. Then we're going to start running the tests, and then we'll go through the tests. I wonder if you can hear my phone ring. We'll find out. If you can, apologies, but you can probably can hear my phone ring because it'll be my computer. Cool. All right. Once it's done, now we need to add business-related tests. Curious how many tests. So it's added a decent number of tests, if I can probably guess. Test. Couple tests here and there. Test. Bunch of tests there for create, which makes sense. You would have a bunch of different create tests. Create a bug report. Yep. Should create a ticket. Yep. Yeah. Should not create. Let's look through that one. Oh, that is one of the annoying things, by the way, about looking at this stuff when it's running. Should handle user references gracefully. Filter ticket by status. Yeah. Okay. There is a linter, so my guess is going to try to fix that. And it's running readme, which is very nice of it. All right, let's run the tests. And they all failed. So let's see why they all failed. Ah, it's a dependency, but we can just put it in, see how they all failed. That's funny. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Oh, we don't need this to run every time. The match globs thing, I've had some issues with that because I believe that's depreciated. If I remember correctly, I think by test, it's now projects, if I remember it correctly. So this is one of those areas, like, once again, you should probably understand what to expect. Mostly for this YouTube video, I'm just going to let the do the best it can. Good. Okay, so it's already moved over to projects. Good. Cool. All right, one all failed, which is okay. We'll just paste in. My guess is there's just one thing why they all failed. I know that there's not a scenario where it's all issues. Yep, exactly. Give me a second, I'm going to get a power button. And we have passing tests, which is great. Okay, so we have some passing tests. We had 8 fail. So let's do this. And this is just for, we're going to say, are the failures bugs? Meaning the app under test is not what the user would expect, or are they bad tests? Now, this in general is fairly dangerous simply because the app is going to treat the code too often as the source of truth. So you have to be a little bit careful in this. And once again, like, after this, what I would do is I'd probably go through all the test cases, make sure I understand them, and then make sure I, as an engineer, sign off on them. But for the sake of this video, we're going to basically let the AI determine it. Normally, I could guess, and I could be wrong, it will probably tell me that there's 2 or 3 issues. It generally is pretty good at finding those issues. On the other hand, it'll probably miss some too. Full transparency. Implementation, expose an issue, so bad tests. Failures actually revealed. Yeah, still exposed. Show more robust than expected. Fix the bad test. Keep. And then reveal that focus on problem. I guess let's just say both and see what it does. Complete side note, this file is starting to get long enough to where I'd probably argue that you should break it up into subfiles. Also, just as a side note, I would generally never recommend doing this level of volume of change if you're not just starting from scratch, just because it will rewrite stuff that's unexpected. That being said, if you're starting from scratch, you had 0 tests 15 minutes ago, I would argue it's worth it. Yeah, interesting. I think it did remove some tests, which was not good. So generally speaking, like, once again, don't just do this level of like mass editing unless you're literally just getting started and all you want is just to get a bunch of tests working. We can tell it to look at the terminal. In this case, we're not even giving it a prompt, so let's see how it does. Okie doke. So the AI has fixed all but 1 failure. And let's tell it. There. It should fix the last one. Now, once again, right, should demonstrate validation issues. Expected true, received undefined. And it thinks it's exposing a real bug, which it probably is, all things considered. I was going to read the ticket. Good. Yeah, I mean, based on that, that does sound like a bug. And like, once again, and I can't emphasize this enough, like, the thing that I'd be doing for the rest of the day is just going through all these test cases. Like, just because it says 42 pass does not mean that you have 42 good tests. But we can keep going. So let's just say this. Now do the same thing for customers. Yeah, let's do this actually. Remember to write the test cases based on user intent and not based on just what the code that exists shows. Status high. Test user. Yeah, that's a good test. Yeah, that's a good test. Couple things, right? So one of the things it asks itself is, how should customer management work in a customer support? So it has the context of what the app is used for based off of just the app itself. And what I'm finding is that it's generally pretty good at that. Now, you might be in a hyper niche industry or something like that, which is super fair. But like in that case, I would just give it more context or give it the product docs or something like that. But you can force it to not write unit tests based on the code and instead based off of just what it sees. Okay. Let's go run 16 failures. So we can say, are the failures bugs or bad tests? See what it thinks. Meantime, let's look at what it wrote. Oh, funny. It literally knows it wrote some bugs that actually exposed. Throwing error. Okay. So it thinks it's bad tests. We'll see how it does. There's also a bunch of type errors that Convex is returning. All right, we can give it results. And let's just continue to say bugs or bad tests and see what it does. It thinks it found a bug. Okay, the test case name was exposed bug. It's continuing to work through the failures. Then we're going to have it go fix bugs if it does find any. Also, at some point here, we need to do all our type checks. It's reading the database. I actually don't know if I agree with what it's doing right now. I might look more into that after this. We're going to fix the type errors before we continue. Tell me whether these failures are bugs that mean to be fixed or bad tests. Like at one point, once again, it's probably this went faster for us just to look through the results. It's a fun exercise. Okie doke. We are down to just 2 failures. So we will go ahead and ask and see what its analysis is. Gradually amount expected, silent failure, reality, gracefully handles, deleted, meaningful out of back. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that analysis. Okay. Now we quit. Now we run. 58 test pass. Great. Now add tests for comments based on. So what it's now doing is writing unit tests for the comments function. It also remembers the fact that I want it to write tests based on real possible implementations. Once again, double check it, don't trust it. But like, same thing, like just to summarize, like what we're doing is literally what would have been in the past like days worth of work. Like unit tests are annoying, particularly unit tests at this volume. And so you'll have a couple more hours to just look through and decide if you think these tests are good, which for the record is not like fun work. Like it is tedious work, but it goes back to this is still a massive net time savings. Okie doke, 1 failed, 19 passed. We can look at it. No comment filter. I can't remember what that was actually supposed to do. Let's go look. That's what's going to insert it here. Yeah, it's a validation error, so I don't think it's an issue, but I could be wrong. I'm going to guess it did something outside the scheme. It's also possible, like, that is a bug. Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right, now we're running for documentation. Yes. So we'll run the same pattern. We're at 78 passing tests. The goal here, because we're at 51 minutes, is I'd like to get to 100 tests in under an hour. That, to me, represents what in the past would have been multiple days worth of work. And then I'll have another couple hours in my day to go ahead and actually look through all the tests and decide if I like them or not. The tests I did is something rather weird. It wrote, yeah, exactly. This file, it basically wrote a bunch of tests that all passed, but basically it expects the buggy behavior, so that we're going to fix that. All right, just for fun, we're going to have it now to try to fix the bug. So arguably it's not a bug. Arguably it's just trying to add like best practice features, which is interesting. 57 minutes. All right, we're down to 5 failures. Transparently, just because I'm into this and I do want to go eat food, I'm going to just probably start to wrap this up. Once again, just to summarize, so this is previous for me, like days worth of work. Like writing unit tests, I know people say they could write unit tests super fast, but I find unit tests to be remarkably tedious. We just added about 100 of them in an hour. Now, there's no world in which I'd ever say you should ship these, basically expecting that they're all perfect. The next thing you should do is use the fact that you just saved like days worth of work to then go through and understand them and try to think through them and decide if they're right or not. The main thing that sort of the goal of this video for me is just to go from 0 to 100 in basically an hour. And if we look at what runs while it's trying to fix itself, we have 111 passing. So I'm going to call that a win. If you have any other questions or topics or other opinions or want to tell me I'm wrong, that's totally fine. Put it below. I'm just really trying to get more content out there. And with that, talk soon. Bye.